Hi, Mrs. McTaggart here. In this video I'm going to do a very quick recap of all the Pythagoras stuff in just one little lesson. This should be viewed as a little revision lesson at the end or maybe before a test, having been taught Pythagoras. So this here is your formula for Pythagoras. C is always the longest side, which is called your hypotenuse. And it's always the longest, so I'm just going to write long. And then that means that the other two sides are both referred to as your short sides, okay? Now Pythagoras discovered that if you add the a and the b squared together, you will get the length of c squared. So you then have to square root that to get what c would have been. And the classic example is if this was 3, this was 4, and this was 5. You would say, right, well, c squared is 3 squared plus 4 squared, which is 9 plus 16, which is 25. If c squared is 25, c is the square root of 25, which is 5 centimetres, which is what I said it was. This is your classic 3, 4, 5 triangle. So that's a kind of wee recap of what your working would be. And you would have, if I was teaching this scratch, I would have done loads of different ways of proving this, okay? The next thing to quickly just go over is this formula changes if you're finding a short side. So the general kind of thing to remember is if you're doing a long side, i.e. the hypotenuse, you square and add. If you're doing a short side, you square and subtract, okay? So short side, subtract. And obviously it would be the bigger number first if you're doing a subtraction. So let's look at this in action. So in my first triangle, I want to know the unknown side. So I'm going to call this x, or you can call it c, keep it as c if you want. So this is your hypotenuse, this is across in the right angle, this is your long side. So we're adding these. So x squared equals 12 squared plus 10 squared. Now you go and type that straight into your calculator, okay? Using the button that looks like this, it's x with a wee 2, and you hit 12 that button plus 10 that button, and you will get the answer of 244. Okay, now that is what the long side squared is, so you have to square root that. If it's still on your calculator screen, you just hit square root equals. If you've cleared your calculator, you hit the square root button and then type in 244 again. Remember, the square root button is just the one that looks like a tick, and it might have just a tick or it might have an x underneath the tick. Either way, the answer to this to 2 decimal places is 15.62 centimetres. Okay, in the second example, I've had to just quickly change that. I just noticed the 15 was in the wrong place. Okay, so in this one, I know my hypotenuse, I know my long side is 15. So this is a short side I'm finding. So this is a subtraction one. So in this one, x squared equals, and you put the 15 first because it's bigger. Otherwise, you'll have a negative number, and you can't do that because you then can't square root that. So you type in 15, hit your x squared button, take away 4, hit your x squared button, and you get 209. X is then the square root of that number, so you hit square root answer or square root 209, whichever way you're more comfortable with. And this to 2 decimal places gives us 14.46 centimetres. And I should say that that was to 2 decimal places. So they are your basic ones. Now I'm going to show you some slightly more complicated ones that you might have in a test. So this could be the side of a building or a garden, something like that, and they've asked for this slopey bit up the top. Now, I've kind of put in a dotted line there to show you that this was a square with a triangle sat on top. Now, using properties that we know of rectangles and squares, that means that the base of our triangle is also 3. But I need to get this little distance here. Now, if this is 3 to here, then that means that is also 3. But if the full height is 5, 3 plus 2 makes 5. So in this triangle, I'm just going to extract it. I'm actually using the numbers 2 and 3. X is my slope. It's the long side, so I'm adding. So I've got 3 squared plus 2 squared, which is 14. I then square root 14. And I haven't mentioned decimal places, but I like 2 decimal places. So x is 3.74 metres to 2 decimal places. The next style of question they give you is this triangle here. These two lines on either side show you this is an isosceles triangle. They might just give it to you like this and say the base is 20, the slope is 12, and ask you to work out the height of the triangle like that. And it's up to you to know that because it's isosceles, you can split it down the middle. But I'd already put that in my diagram. So if you split the 20 down the middle, it means that this side on the triangle is 10. So we're really using 10 and 12. Now I know my long side is 12, so x is a short side, so I'm taking away here. So you put the big number first, so it's going to be 12 squared take away 10 squared, which is 44. X is then whatever the square root of 44 is, which is 6.63 to 2 decimal places. So that's just a very brief recap of all the kind of Pythagoras style things that I would have taught. If you need any more practice of this, there are lots of Pythagoras videos available on my YouTube channel. Thanks very much.